This is your government video for democracy. Democracy is a word that literally translates to government by the people. So it's loosely meant that the people have some type of say in the government that governs them. Although at the time when we were setting up our country and creating our Articles of Confederation and eventually the Constitution, democracy was a word that was not used very often, because they differentiated back then between a democracy and what we call today, or back then, a republic. A republic is where the people have some say in voting for members of the legislative branch, so we would call those representatives and senators. And then those people would get to decide the laws. Democracy was a system in which the people themselves got to vote directly on the laws. And a pure democracy was seen for lots of reasons as contrary to the types of freedoms that the founders were setting up. They did not trust the average person at the time. They thought that the average person was going to make really bad choices, that they could not make laws on behalf of themselves. So they preferred to set up a republican form of government, meaning a representative style democracy. Now, today people use these terms interchangeably. We have technically a democratic republican form of government. There are also other types of democracy as well. So we're going to first talk about a participatory democracy. Just like it sounds, this means that the people have a lot of participation. So if there is broad participation where the voters themselves are allowed to directly vote on laws, where they're allowed to directly talk to or get involved in the political process of writing laws, passing laws, or enacting laws, and get involved in creating a civil society. And of course, in the United States, we have a lot of spaces in federal, state, and local government where we have a much more participatory democracy. The second type of democracy we're going to talk about is called a pluralist democracy. Plural means you have a whole bunch of small groups who are vying for power. So sometimes one particular voter can't make a lot of difference on their own, but if you are to band together with like-minded people, your numbers start to grow. And even if that group is not 50% or more of the entire voting public, as a group, you can create activism, you can get noticed by the media, and you might be able to get access to meetings or access to representatives and senators who are creating laws. This is also used a lot by non-governmental interests, like citizen groups or businesses and corporations who are also trying to get laws passed. The third type of democracy we're going to talk about is an elite democracy. Elitism means rule by the very few. And typically in elite democracies, the group that gets elected to be the elite leaders of the country are people that are elected representatives or people who are appointed by other elected representatives who have some sort of experience, education level, access to power that the average citizen doesn't have. And those elites are familiar with the political system. They know their way around it. It's easier for them to get laws passed. And we as average voters just have to trust them or entrust them to make the correct choices on our behalf. So all three of these various types of democracies are in existence in the United States. We have a lot of spaces where the average public is allowed a lot of participation, sometimes where groups get a lot more access to making laws as opposed to individual citizens. And then there are also times where you really have to be an elite group who has access to powerful people in order to make a difference. So on your guided notes page, I want you to answer these questions. I want you to come up with an example in today's society in the United States of where we can see participatory democracy, pluralist democracy, and elitist democracy. See if you can come up with a very specific example. It can be a federal government, state government, or local government.